Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Assistance Center at Suffolk County Community College. My name is Kenya Harvey, and tonight we are hosting the Speed Business Mentor event where you're listening to the entrepreneurs and learning about their business strategies on how they were able to either start a business successfully or grow it, especially in these times of COVID. Tonight, these are our presenters up top. Hi, Miss Berlene McClaney. I have Joy Iglabu, Katrina Patterson, and I'm actually waiting on two more panelists to arrive. But for the meantime, we'll get started with Miss Berlene. Please introduce yourself and your business and what you'd like to share with us tonight.
Sure. First of all, everyone, welcome. Thank you for taking the time out to share with us this evening. I'm one of the business counselors at Suffolk County Community College EAC program, and that's one of my roles. But I do also run a business, and I'm a self-employed financial professional, and I have been for 25 years. Actually, my anniversary was last week. Yay! So I'm excited about that. I started off probably, it was October 1996, and working with a firm out in Long Island. And just really starting my financial business was about selling, really just selling myself, selling products and services, financial services that was. I worked for 10 years and we did a comprehensive plan. However, it was a little different when I first started out. Then I moved over to AXA, AXA Equitable, as an independent consultant as well. Worked there for a decade, right? It was a great experience in Manhattan. Then I started my family. So that's what brought me back to Long Island and working from home successfully in the mode. So from 2014 to basically to current, I've been working with Lincoln Investments as a financial professional. We offer comprehensive plans by putting all of your financial pieces together in one place, basically, whether it's your insurance, your investments, your will, your tax concerns, retirement, which is a big piece, educational planning for a young child or a grandchild. That's pretty much what we do. Of course, during COVID, my business became very relevant and actually grew during COVID. Most people didn't think they ever needed life insurance, didn't think they ever needed disability insurance, didn't think they ever needed to plan for retirement, death, or either living. But COVID kind of put things in a different perspective, and my business actually started to grow significantly from last year to now. After being in business for 25 years, that was like the push. As far as some of the tips and some of the things that I was able to do before COVID, during a conference, one of the vice presidents basically mentioned to us, if you're not doing business online, you're going to be out of business in 5 years. That's what he said. And that was in 2017, obviously before COVID. So I was very instrumental in doing just what he said. So I pretty much learned, and I was having join.me or GoToMeetings since 2017. Most of my clients never met me face to face, except my existing clients that I had, previously. So I was already in this mode, not Zoom. I wasn't using Zoom, but certainly, of course, now we use all the platforms, GoToMeeting, Teams, pretty much all of the virtual conference calls. So the good news for me was that people were realizing some of the products or services that I offer, they really did need for their family to complete their plans. And people are really serious now about their financial future and just looking at the what ifs. What if I pass away or my loved one? How are my beneficiaries set up? Do I have a will? Do I have a healthcare proxy? Do I even know what those things are? So we kind of educate the clients in different areas to look at their entire financial picture. So I think that's enough for now. Certainly I'm excited about questions, but I would leave the floor to the next presenter. You're on mute, Kenya.
Okay, Q&A will be done after you guys introduce and talk a little bit about your businesses. The next panelist is Ms. Joy Iglabu. Can you introduce yourself and your business?
All right, thank you, Kenya. I just want to use this opportunity to thank the EAC group Kenya, Dr. Gordon, Jennifer, thank you guys so much. It's been wonderful to have you guys. And I just met Verily. She was my mentor in the teaching me the business plan. Remember? That's me. All right. So my name is Joy Ilebu, and I have a business called Joy Professional Home Care Services. One thing about having a business is that you have to be educated in it. You have to know the critical, theoretical, practical, and clinical aspects of them. So I'm a registered nurse. I have my 2 masters, one in MP and the other one in masters in nursing from University of Phoenix. So I did my 2 masters, 2 undergraduates in Monroe College and then the MP in Monroe College. So anyway, I've always been very enthusiastic about how to help patients in their homes. Because most of the time as a critical care nurse manager, I know my patients always ask me to take them home. And if I discharge them, they come back to me within 30 days and my unit is not paid for that care. So of course I decided that I'm gonna open up a home care agency and keep them in their homes. So before I thought about opening up a home care agency, I have no idea about business. I decided to have a consulting firm, which is very essential for anyone who is trying to open up a business. First, you have to know the knowledge, have the knowledge of what you're going to do, have the clinical aspect of it, and have a consulting firm that might be able to give you the look and corners of all the ideas you need to make this fit and work, this stuff. So anyway, I started this business in 2015. Wow. 29 December 2015. And I started this business. First of all, I have to save the money. I refuse to borrow money. Sorry, Verily. I refuse to borrow money because I felt like if I start borrowing money from the beginning, it would be a disaster. So I worked. I went to upstate New York, refused to take anything from my saved money. And I went to upstate New York and became the administrative supervisor for a trauma hospital there. I did for 2 years. I saved a lot of money. When I came back, I opened up Joy Professional Home Care Services in December of 2015. Now, like I said, like I keep telling everyone, before you start any business, think of this. What is your interest in starting that business? Are you interested in the money, or are you interested in what you can give to people? Are you going to sort their lives to make their lives better? Or are you just interested in yourself? That really doesn't work so well if you're just interested in yourself. You have to find somewhere in that corner where you can put others in. Now, you also have to have a attitude of satisfaction in what you are planning to do. And be motivated. To get up every morning is hard. When you are doing your own business, you have to get up in the morning because nobody is telling you to come in at 9 a.m. or 7 a.m. You are telling yourself what time you have to get there. And I advise everyone, you have to be motivated. 9 a.m., write it down somewhere. You must have to step into that office at that particular time. Now, there are so many components of business that affected me as a critical care nurse and also as someone who opened up a home care agency. I have to deal with geriatric population. And the population I'm dealing with, I mapped them out. I was dealing with 70 to 90-year-olds. Now, I can get them at 90, get them at 90-year-old. My company hasn't stayed for 10 years, but I stay with them for a long time until they die. Now, there are so many components, what you have to think of when you're trying to open a business. You have to have an office space. Now, even if you're doing this in your own home environment, you have to map out a space and say, this is my office. Like Verlene will tell you, you need a business plan. You need a business plan to know exactly what you do now, what you do next. In my own case, I have no idea about business. Therefore, I got a consulting firm, healthcare consulting firm, that took me from step one to where I am now. They mapped out everything I have to do. They gave me the paperwork to cover everything. So it's very essential that you have in your mind that you need a computer. You have to have a computer, no matter which office space you have in your house, in your kitchen, or like myself, I was determined because I saved the money. I moved right into left Suffolk County, moved into Freeport on Sunrise Highway. Kenya was there one time. Kenya moved. I went to a bigger place. So anyway, that is what it is. And when you start that business, please, it's not something you can just say, oh, you have to have someone. You have to divine helpers. I call them divine helpers. Secretary, officer. Kenya used to say to me, get someone that can help you in the office. Of course, I got someone. I make sure that I have someone that doesn't sound exactly like Joy, but has a component that others are looking for. So that is steady. And also, when you're starting a business, it doesn't matter whether home care, sales, services, you have to have insurance. You have to think of insurance. You must have liability insurance. I have liability insurance. I have workers' comp who come after you. If you don't have it, they will really, really, really come after you. Now, I will talk about workers' comp because they really, really dealt with me. Workers' comp have two types of them. One is be careful going to a bigger workers' comp, which is meant for people that are already well established. You just starting a company, you're small, go for somewhere like pay week. Like every week you do your payroll, they take workers' comp out. They take all insurance out. They pay the state for you. You don't have to do any of that. But I started wrongly. So I just want to say one more thing. I started wrongly. I went to a company that makes me do most of the work. I wasn't doing well until I got to go to another company that took my insurances and paid them. It is essential, or they come after you with everything they got. So anyway, do I still have time? Kenya, you're mute.
You're
Do I
mute,
still-
Kenya.
Yes, you do, Joy.
Okay, all right.
Just,
So let me just give you guys a rundown on how Joy started making profit. I wasn't making profit before, but thanks to EAC, wonderful. I got the first contract in 2018. In 2018, I had this huge contract. It was, and of course, in 2017, I wasn't doing much because I started in 2015. I'm waiting for my license for home care to blow up because that's what I was told, but it never happened. All of a sudden, of course, I came to EAC and I did my minority women-owned business enterprise, and I got my certification and everything was fine. And I got my first contract. Now, I started operating, in short, when I started that contract, my revenue went from 62,000 to 300,000 in 6 months. Because we were covering 3 hospitals in upstate New York. And that's from the fact that I got certified as a minority-owned business and as a woman-owned business. If not, I couldn't have gotten that contract. Thank you so much, Kenya. Kenya will sit me down and say, Joy, you haven't done this, you haven't done this. And all that you haven't done resulted in what I'm doing right now. Now, we continue with that contract. Guess what? COVID came, pandemic all over. She will call me, Marilyn will call me and say, did you get any money? I say, yes, I did. Yes, I got the first PPP, thank God, and that helps.
Yes.
Even though we still have a contract in upstate New York, but it wasn't working because now we can't go in because we have to, there's so many regulations and we stood at a standstill. But the PPP money came and that helped. And then we continued and now we have another contract. Now, the contract with healthcare is not like construction. They don't give you 3 million. I was lucky to get 170. I think the first one I got was 179. But within 3 months, we covered that 179. I don't know how they paid us, but they paid us. We were my son Obi was on it, and every time they call us, they get what they need. And now we have another contract. So in case there's any more questions, I will elaborate more on it. So let me leave the rest to comment. Thank you guys for listening.
You're welcome. Thank you, Joy.
Thank you.
Our next panelist is Katrina Patterson. She will introduce herself and talk a little bit about her businesses that she has going on. I know that she has multiple. Thank you, Katrina.
You're on mute, Katrina. You're on mute. You gotta unmute yourself.
And I said, remember to take yourself off mute. Thank you so much for inviting me, Kenya, to be a part of this panel discussion. Good evening, everyone. And I do have to just say a big thank you, as Joy did, to the Entrepreneurial Assistance Center. Just a big thank you to Daphne Gordon, Kenya, of course, and all of the support that I received and continue to receive from the time that I completed the program. I believe it was back in 2015, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So thank you so much. Well, as far as the entrepreneurial space goes, I do wear a few hats. By profession, I am an attorney, and I do have a law practice, and a law practice is a business that does have to be run, and it helps to have an entrepreneurial mindset in doing so. So as I run my law practice, I definitely always keep that business hat on, because it is a business. While it is a profession, it is a title, it is a business because it is my practice. Interestingly, similar, I guess I heard quite a few common grounds, but as listening to Verlene, I am an estate planning attorney, and I've been practicing for 20 years, so, well, 21 years, but I've been an attorney for 21 years. I've been practicing for 20 years. And estate planning has always been one of my heavily practiced areas. And at this point, it's pretty much all I do. Also, in listening to Verlene, I too was at AXA, Equitable, for a good number of years in the law department. And so even though I've been in private practice over the past 20, private practice, about 18 years, but I've done it in different capacities at different levels over the years, sometimes full-time, sometimes part-time, because I also, at some point, started a family. And I actually, when I was pregnant with our first child, I took the bar exam. So I always say that she and I, we took it and passed it together back in 2000. And so after having our first child, and we have 2 children, my family became very concretely centered at everything I did professionally, really from the time I began practicing. In addition to having a law practice, I am a licensed real estate broker. In the state of New York, if you are a licensed attorney, you are able to obtain several other licenses just by virtue of being admitted to the New York bar. One of the licenses, I have a few others, but one of them is that real estate broker's license that has come in handy, particularly in the area of estate planning, and especially in the most recent years, because what I have sought to do is, in addition to my estate planning practice, and we do the wills, the trusts, estate handling, and many of the things that Verlene mentioned, what I sought to do at some point, particularly during the height of the pandemic last year, was to really create that intersection between estate planning and real estate, but from the sell side. There are many estate planning attorneys who are also real estate attorneys. I used to do real estate law, but chose to stop because I found it very stressful. But I absolutely love estate planning. And with a real estate broker's license, I'm able to also sell real estate on behalf, of course, of a client as their agent or broker. And so what I sought to do with my estate planning practice is to carve out an intersection between estate planning and real estate selling, just to, the two do go hand in hand, and they're very complementary within my estate planning practice, because oftentimes on the estate, depending on where we are in the estate planning world, or maybe we're on the back end where an estate has to be settled, and that's when you get into probate and administration. I do a little of that as well. But having a real estate license becomes very complementary in being able to service my legal clients from the standpoint of their property and what they may need to do with their property as it relates to a sale. So those are 2 of my hats that I wear in the entrepreneurial space. The third hat is I have a consulting practice. So my law practice, we loosely refer to it as KP Law. My real estate work and business, we tend to refer to as KP Realtor. When I completed the Entrepreneurial Assistance Program at Suffolk County, I had started a few years prior a consulting practice, KP Clarity. And KP Clarity is a consulting practice that focuses heavily on conflict resolution and management within the framework of relationship and leadership development. And so when I attended the program, I really attended because I wanted to get some nuts and bolts down for my consulting practice that was kind of freshly off the ground. I have a heart for conflict. That's kind of, I don't know if that's necessarily why I became a lawyer or not, but what I found in working with families on the legal work is oftentimes there were a lot of family conflicts on the relational level. And I became very intrigued at, those conflicts within the family that I really could not address as the attorney, but it gave me great insight into the conflicts that occur within families. And so I took the time to become very studied on the area of conflict resolution and peacemaking, to the point that I created a consulting practice. And I began to seek out opportunities to offer the teaching and the training and the coaching, not so much from a legal standpoint in the form of arbitration or mediation, but really from a relational standpoint as it pertains to families and organizations within the realm of leadership, because I saw so many, I became very sensitive to the erosions that unresolved conflict causes. And so I created a practice. And when I did so, that's really why I completed the program at Suffolk County, because I wanted to really put a good stake in the ground as far as the consulting world was concerned, and how to build a business around something that was very treasured to my heart, but yet it still was a business. And so within my consulting practice, I did become a certified at MWBE as well with KP Clarity. And I did that thankfully through the program. So thank you again. And it really was for the purpose of becoming more, being able to access opportunities that were available to MWBEs, because, there definitely, I believe any opportunity that you can take advantage of, put yourself in position to be able to do so. And because while I was completing the program, the EAC began offering these workshops on becoming certified. So it just made perfect sense to do so. And it was definitely a great move that I made, and was able to secure some contracts as well, not as illustrious as Joy's, but nonetheless, contracts nonetheless. And so because the world of conflict, and especially within the organizational realm with leadership, it was something that just positioned me to be able to take advantage of those type of opportunities. My fourth hat, and I'm going to get in full uniform because I'm already wearing one of our shirts. I'm wearing one of our hoodies, but I'm going to get in full uniform and I'm going to put on my cap. And so my fourth hat, literally, is my daughter and I. My daughter is a college student at Stony Brook University. And 2.5 years ago, she and I began what we call more than a clothing line. We developed a brand, My Black Matters. And this was something that was born purely out of our own personal experience within my family. That while we, as a Black family, we clearly have a lot of common ground. But there are 4 of us in our family, but yet we each look differently. So the point to us was, wow, and this just kind of came about from a very casual conversation she and I were having one day. And out of it, we began to talk about how even though my Black may look different than her Black, and her Black may look different than my husband, her father's Black, and all of our Black may look different from her brother, my son's Black, because we are all different complexions, different shades of the spectrum. My Black matters, and so does yours. And so when we talked about it, she came up with the bright idea that we should put it on a shirt
Hmm.
and we should share our message with others, giving them a way to kind of wear their voices, because many people are not, they're not activists in the traditional sense. They're not very vocal. They're not going to necessarily go out and get involved with a protest for equality and equity and justice. They're not going to necessarily, speak up verbally, but we recognize that so many of us in the Black community, we are saying the very same thing, that my expression of Black may be different than yours, but it matters. And so we started this line, and we started this and I tell you, out of all of these businesses I just talked about, My Black Matters is the most exciting, because number one, she and I do it together. And number two, we have fun doing it, because when we started this back in July of 2019, we began to test our message out. We got some shirts made, and we started doing, since it was summertime, we said, well, let's do a little vending. And so we started doing vending events where we would sell our products. And we started out with three colors of t-shirts: white, Black, and a light blue. And we did one event, and we got great feedback, and we had great conversation, because people wanted to know, well, what does My Black Matters mean? What does it mean? And we would talk to them about it. And so many people would relate to our message. And from one event, we did another event and another event, to the point that we started doing multiple events. And in February of and now she lives on campus, so she does live on campus, but we would do events, during the summer that we started. And during the fall of that particular year, 2019, we still did events. And sometimes I would drag my son with me in her absence, and we would do an event. We would do different events and locally. And then in January of last year, we were invited to do, because we kind of started creating a buzz, and we created social media pages, our Instagram, Facebook. We didn't have a website at that time, but we did create our social media pages, and we were doing events, and we started getting invited to do other events. And so in 2020, January 2020, we were invited to do two major events. One was a men's breakfast that had about 1,000 attendees, and they had vending and all of this, that, and the other. And then we were invited that very same day, that evening, to do the NAACP Gala in Huntington. And that and so we created all this buzz with our shirts and our gear, and we added hoodies and hats. And then February of last year, we did 5 Black History Month events that were just so exciting. And then the pandemic hit in March. And so what we did during that time, once the pandemic hit, and we had dates lined up to do other events, but they were all canceled. So we took advantage of that opportunity of kind of being on lockdown to create an online store. We had been talking about it, because the events can be very wearing. And if people can only get the products at an event that we have to physically be at, it was becoming a bit, we were kind of starting to feel it. So now we had an opportunity to kind of sit down, create our online store. And interestingly, we created the online store before we did a full-blown website, which we did. But we figured, we got to get the store up. We got to get the product available, because it is a business, and people are asking for the product. They had been asking. So while everything is locked down, because we're not going to be locked down forever, let's work on the store. We launched our store on May 15th of 2020. And of course, we had no idea this would happen. We just simply did what we believed we should be doing as being stewards over the message that we have now been sharing. So we created a store, we launched it on May 15th. And about a week and a half later, unfortunately, we all know what happened with George Floyd. As a result of the George Floyd tragedy,
Yes.
there now was so many marches and protests and rallies, and we had already started promoting our store before this happened.
Yes.
So now we were being requested to fulfill orders because people wanted to wear their voices on their chest, on their heads, that my Black matters, as they went out to these various marches and protests and rallies. And we were just so thankful, not that we were able to exploit what happened, but that we followed what we believed we should have been doing by making our product available. That it just so happened timing occurred and it was now available to those who wanted it. So we were able to meet the need. And then in about a month or so later, we created a full website. So I feel like I've been talking, and I was thinking, well, you know what, just say 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's it. But you see how excited I get about our brand.
Yes.
And I think my biggest message is each of my businesses, they matter to me. I became a lawyer for a reason, and I went into private practice with my own firm for a reason that was very important to me. I got my real estate license because I wanted to be able to better service my clients in an area that is very important to me. I started my consulting practice because I wanted to be of service to others in an area that is very important to me. And my daughter and I started My Black Matters because of a message that was very important to us. So whatever you do, wherever you are in your entrepreneurial pursuits, whether you're considering becoming an entrepreneur, you're already in business, you're looking to grow your business, I would encourage you to always identify what really matters to you, because if you do that, that's where the authenticity of business comes in, and you will be excited to do it even when things get challenging. And on that note, I'm done.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You have many, many hats. So that presentation went on longer than that's okay, because we heard all of the jobs that you carry. And I thank you for sharing that story. Mr. John V., thank you for coming. Mr. John, you're on mute, and you are our next panelist. So,
hi guys, I'm sorry I was late. I moved upstairs from downstairs, and today they shut off the Wi-Fi, and I had to scurry, but I got Wi-Fi when I got on, and then I had to put on the video. But so I'm a patent attorney. May I ask you a question, Katrina?
okay.
Sure.
Yeah, so for
Yes.
some reason, I'm like, I'm a patent and trademark guy, and I took a look, and I see your registration, and I see that there's this guy out in Illinois, Mr. Malone. They filed a mark after you, and I was wondering if you heard anything from them. You got it. They filed an intent to use mark. I think it's an incredibly valuable mark. Anyway, for what it's worth, I'm a patent and trademark attorney, and I went to Suffolk. So I'm going to be a little personal. So this is what happened to me. I grew up in this funny home, and then they drank too much, right? And so I drank too much. And at 22, I stopped, right? And so then I went to school at night. I went to Suffolk, right? So I got a degree from Suffolk, and I found out, of course, I drank and partied, all through my adolescence, which is probably not good for your brain. But anyway, I got to the rehab, you know what I mean, at 22. And so again, when I got out of there, I went to Suffolk, I found out I could do math. And so I got an engineering degree. And then I went and I got an engineering degree from Brooklyn Poly, which is now NYU's engineering school. But it took a while. And by the time that happened, the demand for engineers dropped because Reagan made friends with the Russians, right? And so I went to law school at night and became an IP attorney. And it's like the best thing that I ever did. And you know, and I'm involved with the technology, and I'm involved with branding and the like I'm involved with trademarks. It kind of came secondhand. And I have a little practice in Huntington. I've done some other things, you know, I kind of settled in here. But I worked for law firms in the city, you know, I worked for law firms out here. And then I worked in-house for a company called Philips Electronics, which is a medical company. Philips Medical Systems essentially was like my client as an in-house attorney in Philips, right? And it was just like you know, I don't idle well. So what I do is if I'm going to make any money, I have to pick something up, figure it out, and get rid of it. You know what I mean? And so at Philips, like all this stuff, I worked with I worked around inventors and stuff, and that's where I'm most comfortable. You know, I'm more comfortable talking to engineers than I am with other humans, you know? And so it was really it was like an accident, but it was the best thing that ever happened to me that I became a patent attorney. And anyway, and I got this small practice, and that's what I do. And, you know, what I try to do is give a little away. I have some gratitude because it's almost like I'm working on house money with the whole sober thing. You know what I mean? And so I try to give a little back, and just to kind of try to stay in touch with being grateful, because of course sometimes we're not grateful. And so I appreciate that you guys invited me to do this again. And if there's anything that I might be able to do for your students, you know, or other entrepreneurs, I don't know if entrepreneurs are still students or they're involved as as alumni, as Suffolk alumni, you know, please feel free to call them. It's you know, it took me a minute to, you know, to find Ms. Patterson's mark, you know what I mean? And so to teach someone, it takes 5 minutes to teach someone how to do a trademark search. It takes about 10 to teach someone how to do a patent search. It's what I do, so feel free to give them my number. And I guess that's about it. I hope that's what you were looking for. And I hope I wasn't too personal. You know, anyway, I already said it, so. Nice to meet you guys.
Okay.
And thank you, Joy. You sound like you're doing great.
Thank you, John. So these are our panelists for tonight, and everyone has heard a little bit about their business and their stories and their strategies on how one can start a business and successfully grow it. So I want to hear back from the listeners here to see if we have any questions for any of the panelists tonight. I don't see any open. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. I have a question for you, John.
Okay.
Okay,
If I can
so so I know a while back you talked about, you know, how you could protect your property the cost-effective way, right? When you think about protecting your property, you may and get an attorney to help you, you know, it may be a lot out of pocket, right? The expense of doing so. But I remember you talked about a cheaper way or a less expensive way of doing that. Can you share that with us?
Wow, you got a good memory.
Yes.
Yeah, so you know, the way it works, the way trademark works, even though there's the federal laws, the Trademark Act and the registration process, it only was implemented in, like, I think 1952. So before that, and before we were a country, trademarks were about, they became trademarks under the common law, came from the Brits, you know what I mean? Before we became a country. And so, you know, it's all well and good to register your mark and you get a lot of benefits from it. You got access to the federal courts and the like, but you don't have to do that right off the bat. And that's where the expense is. So I would recommend that if you have a couple of marks, that you want to treat as trademarks, you use them with a superscripted TM if you're in the goods classes from 0 to 34, or you can use them with a superscripted SM if you're in the services class. For example, like Katrina, she's in class 35, which is the first of the 11th services class. So you would just take your mark, whatever you want as your mark, get a superscripted TM or SM. Don't ever use the encircled R unless you got a registration, because that could affect your rights. And you always use it as an adjective. So there's got to be something after it. For example, Katrina's services or Katrina's class 28 t-shirts. In other words, you always want to use it as an adjective, never as a noun, otherwise you could blow your rights. And that's it. And so you can do that for any number of them you want. You just slap it on. If you're using it in commerce, you're accruing value and rights to the mark. For example, Katrina's mark is issued, she filed it in 2020, right? No, it was registered in 2020. He filed it in 2019. And then this other guy filed an intent to use mark. He's not even using the mark in Illinois on October 2020. So because even if Katrina didn't have a registration, because she started using her mark in August of 2019, she's the senior user. Under the common law, she wins hands down. And so if there had been a contest between Katrina and someone else, or if this guy ever challenges her, she's going to win hands down. And that's just about use. That's the common law use. And that's really all you need to know about trademarks, is that you start accruing rights to the mark when you use it in commerce. So use it in commerce. Even if you don't put the TM on it, you're still accumulating those rights with use. But I'd advise you to put the TM on it and the SM on it, so the world is on notice. No one can say they didn't know that they were using your mark. They didn't know that you're using it as a trademark. Anyway, I hope I'm not going on and on. But that's about that's my short spiel on trademarks.
John, can you put your contact information in the chat? I have a participant who would like it, please.
Okay.
Okay, and Katrina, yours as well. Your contact information is asked for, so I'm not really sure which one of the panelists that they're requesting, but just, add it just in case. Thank you. Christopher, you have a question? I see your hand is raised. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me now, or I don't think you could?
I can
see
hear
me.
you. I can hear you. We can hear you.
I actually had a question for the John D. Something that happened a long time ago, but I think it's
I
the
didn't
way.
do it.
It's the way I took up diving, and in a world where people who look like me, I'm African American, you didn't see many divers, and what the instructor was doing was he had a little side business and he was taking photos of students. And a few years later, I found that my photo was in diving magazines. And so I said, I wonder if I could sue him for this. And I never really pursued it. But I realized that these trademark infringements, you call them, happen so often in business. And it really, really is discouraging. And but it was informative what you said about, I guess, using it as a, like an adjective, and I guess not as a noun. And I guess I'm understanding more. I'm coming from a place where I had retired remotely through all these Zoom meetings and emails and everything, which was really foreign to me because I really, after working for so many years and then going into the retirement, I said, it's so different now. It's extremely different to see people and talk to them instead of just calling them up and kind of being informed by them. But hopefully I'm not varying off. But the interest of that happens so much in business that you find yourself having trademark infringements. And you don't, I think so many businesses are so similar now because everything you do is on social media. And I see that a lot of people bully people simply, and it doesn't even, I wouldn't even know that it was bullying. It was just the way that the internet is. So I hope you got my somewhat question in there.
So, so you have a right to your likeness. That's an independent law in New York State. And then there's the second cause of action that you would have against these guys that are using your image without your permission, without a license, essentially, is copyright. So you got a common law copyright under New York State. New York State kind of codifies the common law copyright, and that came from the Brits too. However, if you filed an application for a copyright, which you could do online for $65, it goes back 3 months, and for any infringement of your copyright, a single infringement, the fine is between $250 and $30,000 for each copyright infringement. And to me, using your image, actually, you know what? I'm misrepresenting that. It's there. They took the image, so actually they have the rights to it, but not the rights to they have the rights, the copyright to that work, but they don't have the right to your image. And so you could get them if you wanted to. You could send them a little letter and saying, guys, you've been using my likeness, for so many years for commercial purposes. I think it's worth 10%. Please send me an accounting. I mean, if you have 10 minutes, it might be worth it. You know what I mean?
No, I wouldn't pursue this so long ago.
Oh, okay. But if it happened yesterday, you know what I'm saying? Because everybody's entitled to, no one can use your image, even if they have a copyright for the work, like in which they captured it with their camera. So I think they have a copyright to that piece, that work. But nevertheless, they can't use it without your permission, even if it's their copyright. Anyway, it's very contested. Like the right to use copyright stuff, it's all over the net, and people making copies of stuff and using it, dumping on the website, putting it on Facebook for a couple of things. It's a really interesting topic,
Thank you. Did that answer your question, Chris?
Yeah, I guess that was primarily where I wanted to start with what had happened so long ago, but it was at a time when you didn't really have this format where you sat down and you actually are talking to multiple people with similar business ideas and similar ideas. You just, like most people, hear things through the grapevine. And I had friends who, a long time ago, who were lawyers, like, it's not really worth it. And then later on, some friends said, well, you should have pursued it. I said, it was so long ago, I'm not really interested. But it's germane to what's happening now in a lot of businesses, that so many people are copying things that you might take for granted, and if you're not protective of your image, you're going to find your image plastered all over the internet. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Thank you. I can. I thank you so much for sharing that with us. I do have a question in the Q&A that I'm actually going to read from Stephanie Jimenez. It says, what is your best advice for college students who are on the older side who feel the stigma of running out of time? I eventually wanted to start my own business as a property management company, but sometimes feel that I'm only about to get my associates and I'm 21. I feel like I'm going too slow. Any advice for Stephanie?
Stephanie is 21 and she thinks that she's older.
Yeah,
Stephanie. Well, I just want to say, well, Stephanie, first of all, whenever you have a passion, I think Joy was basically emphasizing that if you have a passion for something, you go into business to solve a problem for your customers, right? And Katrina is solving problems for so many people. I just love you, Katrina. But at any rate, that's why you go into business. So that can be at any age, in any stage, basically. You're going to solve a problem for your customer, for your client. So being a property manager, that is, I had a real estate business as well, where you always needed a property manager. I can't fix a door. I can't fix certain things. So you need someone to manage the property for you. I think it's a business that's going to always, you're going to always need somebody there, as far as property management. It's not going to go out of style. People are always buying real estate. You're definitely not too old. And if you're 21, you're really just starting out. So continue to get your degree and definitely go for, your passion. If that's your passion, to help people in that area.
I don't see any more questions in the chat or in the Q&A. Does any one of the participants like to share? Please unmute yourself.
Yes, this is Rhonda. I have a question. Hi, everybody. And thank you for all the work that you've done and all the examples that you give to all of us. John, I'm in the process of developing a product line. There are 10 different things in it. 9 of them are similar. I don't want to say too much because we're on Facebook. And one is a logo. Is it possible for me to put trademarks on all of them as a unit, or should they each be individually trademarked?
Well, it may be, in other words, you have like 12 products. So you would have, if cat was your mark, it would be cat product 1, cat product 2, cat product 3, right?
Yes, pretty much, yeah.
Well, I mean, it sounds like cat would be your brand. So you could probably use the same brand to describe, those goods as an adjectival qualifier of the goods, which is the object, which is the noun. And so I think you could get away with just one mark, you know what I mean? And
Okay,
then
so
sometimes people have a logo too, like a snappy bunch of words, as distinguished from like a single word mark, or a mark kind of like, kind of like the My Black Matters mark has a design element to it. The lightning bolt, I guess. I didn't read how it was articulated, but it looks like a lightning bolt to me. So those things that can be that can be trademarked as well. But so maybe 2. You know what I mean? Like maybe there's a logo, but find a brand and then stick to it. Or
okay,
take 2, kick the tires.
right. The only thing I can compare it to without giving too much away, do you remember back in the day, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? There were the 4 different Ninja Turtles. So would it just be the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle trademark, or would each one of those 4 different turtles have to have had their own trademark? It's basically the same thing. From what you're saying, I could just do the whole group.
Yeah. So let's say that the mark. So as strange as it sounds, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, even though it sounds like turtles is a noun, that could be the logo mark. And so the mark would be Mutant Teenage Ninja Turtles t-shirts, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles services, consultant services, you know what I mean? And so again, that's how you use the mark as a mark in commerce. You use it to qualify your services as a source for your services, or as a source for your goods. And that's all you need to know. You could do it with anything. Again, you could make up a bunch of them, and whichever one, and use them for 3 months, all 4 of them or something, make up 4 of them. And the one you like, you keep, and maybe file a trademark application for.
So another question then, if I did different things with each of these, let's say turtles, say I made turtle mugs, turtle shirts, turtle, like different things with the use of the turtle on it. Does each one of those different products need its own separate trademark or copyright?
So you get the trademark, and you could get the trademark in multiple classes. You got to pay for each class. But for example, class 28 is, class 25 is all garments, caps, hats, t-shirts, hoodies, everything, right? Class 28 is toys. And so toys and novelty items, cups, with your mark on it, toys with your mark on, snow globes and stuff like that. So you can register for anything you want, but they make you pay a la carte, for each set of goods. So for each class of goods. So again, it would cost you $350 to pay the trademark office to file the application for class 28 toys and novelty items. And then you probably want to be class 25 clothing, including t-shirts and the like. And so that's another $750. And then if you got a retail store and you're selling at a retail store, you want to get it to cover retail and online store services. You might want to pay another $350 for class 35 services, as in Katrina's registration. And so again, you kind of have to pay a la carte, but it's really not too bad. It's the same mark. It's just applied as a source of goods, different kinds of goods. So I hope that's clear. It's not as bad as you think, as much as, they're kind of trying to get you for a bunch of different classes. If you got a bunch of different goods, it's not, you do get the registration and it is across the board. And if you ever send someone a cease and desist letter, they can't say, well, we're in a different class. You know what I mean? Like, it's only for paying when you file the application. You don't really need to recognize it in infringement. Like someone can hit you for infringement if you're outside their class. And that's sort of, that's a little bit strange, but that's the way the law works, so.
So in other words, if somebody took my quote unquote turtles and they started making a product other than what I'm currently making, they couldn't do that. I would be protected by what I already started with the original mark for the turtles.
If they're using your mark and they're selling goods, you know what I mean? They're selling stuffed animals,
Right.
But they're using something that's really close to your mark. It doesn't have to be the exact.
Right.
There's something called likelihood of confusion. It's not even confusion. The standard is, would a consumer confronted with both marks and both products in the marketplace be confused to source based on this guy's ripping you off? You know what I mean? And that's kind of what it comes down to. And that's what the judge decides.
Gotcha. Okay, that's awesome. May I ask another question to another panel member, or are there other people in line?
You're
Sure.
on mute, Kenya.
I
Sure.
can ask. Okay. Many of you mentioned social media when you started your business as being online or starting websites and being online with your stores and that type of thing, and just getting exposure out there. I've done different things. I've had different results. I'm interested in finding out what each of you has found to be a great way to get your name out there, especially in the beginning when you first started. I know each industry might have different sets of social media outlets that might be better suited, but I'd just like to get some feedback from you guys as to what worked well.
So I'll just start to say, I'm not even really marketing on social media. Basically, most of my referrals are coming from word of mouth, existing clients. I'm like anti-social media, but I'm a different human, so don't count me.
And that's why we love you.
Don't count me. But at any rate, maybe one of the other panelists can add to that.
All right,
I'll jump in with that.
I will contribute to that. In the business of home care, which is what we're doing, you have to get the message out. Of course, you have to have a website where when you are sending out an email, your website should be included in your logo that identifies who you are. So in starting a business, you have to research as to the way other people did get the word out. In home care, we have different components. One, we have to have a website, I said that, Facebook. And we also have to find a way to get into the community and get referrals. We contracted with 3 referral companies that refer clients to us. And in addition to the contract we have, where we are servicing hospitals in all states, and presently we are coming into the community. We presently yesterday started working with hospice communities, because I dealt with a client whose father wasn't doing very well. And that was in 2018. He eventually called me and told me that he needs help. I saw he couldn't pay me, so I found someone that can work with him one-to-one, and he can deal and pay the individual. So what he did was he referred us to hospice. So that's another way you treat other people nice, tell them about your business, and they will tell other people about you.
I'd like to add to what Joy and Verlene have said. I do believe that in terms of social media, this is a method of marketing. It's a means of marketing if you're talking about business. And I'm putting on my, even though I'm an attorney, I have a law degree, I do have an MBA as well. But I do know this is something that well, it helps, it comes in handy. But I do recall, even from when I completed the Entrepreneurial Assistance Program, this was something that was really magnified for me, because like you, Verlene, I consider myself very, 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 I guess I have a love-hate relationship with social media. And so, but what was made very clear is that social media it's here to stay.
Yes.
And so I will say, and I'll just use our My Black Matters, even though I use social media for my other things as well. But I think that what is most important, and this is just kind of marketing 101, is that you have to identify, whoever it is that your target market is, that whoever your ideal customer is, where are they? Where is that person? Where are those people that you want to market your product to? And wherever they are, that's where you need to be in terms of social media. So in terms of selling, hats and shirts, and I mean, we do focus very much on this is a message, we have certain phrases that we always include, certain hashtags, helping you wear your voice out loud and, wear it to share it and things like that. But we recognize that, Facebook, Instagram are our primary outlets because they're very, they kind of cater to different communities, but yet, that's where the people are that we want to reach. I use LinkedIn in professionally as an attorney, as a realtor, even in my consulting practice, I use LinkedIn, pretty much, I use that quite a bit. I will post on Facebook and Instagram certain things for those businesses, but we never, with the exception of maybe once, post on LinkedIn for My Black Matters, because we just believe that our biggest bang is really with Instagram and Facebook. And so I think the key is, where are your customers in the social media world? In terms of what we post, we don't post, hey, come buy a shirt or a hat. What we like to do when we have events is we take pictures. We have a nice big banner that says My Black Matters, so does yours. It has a shirt on it. We make it really high so that people can see it. And You know, when people come to our table and they make a purchase, we ask, can we take your picture at the banner? And we get their picture. We tell them, listen, do you mind if we use it, if we post it? And we even tell them, you know, go to our page, follow us here. And sometimes we'll tag them in the picture if we get their information. And so we kind of make it very community oriented, very fun. And so, you know, posting pictures of things we've done while we share our products, obviously it's business, so we want people to buy it, but we want to kind of show on social media the relatability, you know, we're all about the community, which we are. You know, we're all about the dialogue, we're all about taking photos and smiling and all of that. And so it just kind of makes it a little bit more personable in terms of how we're using social media to share what we're offering. And the last thing I would say is, I'm not sure what your product is, but you know, we will post about things that have really, you know, during on Juneteenth, we'll make a post about Juneteenth, and we'll drop a historical tip about what Juneteenth is all about. You know, we will, during this Black History Month, we chose different individuals that were important to us that we wanted to kind of honor on, you know, each Sunday of Black History Month or whatever it was, that were people who were important to us that we wanted to just acknowledge. But of course, we created our pages. So when we're posting, they're not seeing Katrina Patterson. I'll share the post, but they're seeing My Black Matters. You know, they're seeing that as that's who's making the post. And then we share it to our personal pages and things like that. But, you know, I would say if there are any causes or anything that you can share around your product on social media as well to connect with the audience that you're targeting, then that will help build that relationship. Because I think that's really what I'm kind of getting at, is that you're building a relationship on social media, just as you would be doing in person.
That was all wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate each one of your, it's amazing, you know, as a person looking at all of your pictures up there, one thing that comes across is how much you enjoy what you do, but also how much you seem to want to help people. And both of those qualities speaks volume for your character. So thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you. I have another question in the chat. Gina Reen would love to know more about how private duty home care works.
Oh, okay. That's excellent question. That's the major thing we're doing now. We're doing private duty home care. Now, the way it works, I can tell you that when I started this business in 2015, my major thing was to get a license, get Medicaid, permission to service Medicaid patients and Medicare patients. There are two different types. But as time goes on, I see that those two areas are severely monitored by Department of Health. They are required to do cost analysis. So many things they are required to do. Now, you can understand that I was so devastated in 2018 when I was about to get my license and they said, no. Oh, we're gonna move it to 2020. 2020 comes, there's pandemic, we're gonna hold on until things get better. So we ended up as private care agency. We call ourselves companion care agency, but most of our clients privately pay us. So what happens in this situation is that we have, like I said before, 3 referral services. that know us very well. They know the kind of patients we get, and they know that we get paid privately. We take insurances, but it depends on if we can get a single case agreement with the company, with the insurance company. We could do their case. Like now, we have a single case agreement that we are doing outside right now. We're starting that case tomorrow. But most of the time, most of our clients are private pay. It pays well to do private care. Most of the people are calling me, Joy, just keep your private care agency. Don't do Medicare or Medicaid or all this insurance. The state will come in every week because my friend that is, don't mention name, that is over here has been fined $1 million because one of the aides went and reported her to Department of Health that she's not paying them the correct amount of money she's supposed to pay them. So Department of Health came in, Labor Department came in and did everything they had to do, charged her to pay back $1 million. Now they came to my office last month to come and see what I'm doing. They didn't come in, it was through Zoom. So they saw that I was doing private pay patients. Majority of my 90% patients are private pay. And they said, we don't want to deal with you. We are not dealing with you. We deal with only Medicare, Medicaid. I said, oh my God, here I go. Now I am dealing with live-ins. They pay me good money. Live-ins, 12-hour shifts, all that. Patients that are in their homes, they don't have insurance. They are retired already. They have Medicare. What you have to understand that Medicare doesn't pay for long-term care, for chronic situations. It has to be acute. Going to the hospital, you come out with Medicare. They come to your house and stay for 4 weeks to go. Now, those patients need us. They pay us privately in order for us to continue to take care of them. Because what we do, we clean, we do everything, we help you with making sure you take a good bath. We might not wash you up, but we make sure you take a good bath. So private pay, private patients and private pay are the same. They usually pay cash or pay check or do a credit card. And it works because we don't account to Department of Health. They don't come to check up on us for anything at all. So I know other people go into the town, advertise themselves and get jobs. They call them to come and do private pay, but that's different because now the people that work with us get Social Security deducted. That means they can retire on the Social Security. They have workers' comp. Okay, they have disability insurance. They have unemployment insurance. Whereas when you do this privately, like yourself alone, you're not paying all this. Some people say, oh, we file our taxes at the end of the year, but you do not have unemployment insurance. You do not have workers' comp insurance. So we provide all that for our private, for our employees that do the private pay cases for us. Did I answer your question? Did I answer the question? You need
Joy?
more?
Hi,
Yeah.
Joy. Hi. She has a question in the chat. She wants to know if you can share your phone number with her. She would love to talk to you, if possible, meet with you. We could probably do that off of the webinar, or if you feel comfortable doing
Okay,
that.
you have my number, right? Yeah, just give her my number.
Okay.
Or you have my office number, you have my phone, my cellular phone number. Any
Okay.
of those can work.
Okay. Do we have any other questions before we wrap it up this evening? I don't see anything in the Q&A, so you can unmute yourselves.
Okay, thank you. It's Rhonda again. Two things came up. Katrina, do you do contracts? Since you're a lawyer, I know you said you do estate wills and trusts and things like that. Do you do contracts between two different parties?
I guess it would really depend on what it is.
Okay.
That's a little vague, so I guess it would depend on what it is. But I did put my telephone number in the chat, and anyone
Right.
as well as you as well, welcome to give me a call. But it would depend on what it is.
Okay. And then again for John, if an audio book was done, does that need its own separate type of mark?
No, it's really a copyright. So it's a work, and you can register the copyright. So if someone copies it, there's an infringement. You know what I mean? Without your permission, if they don't pay you.
Okay. So anything written would strictly be copyright.
Yeah, like anything that's sort of published, like something written, a performance, a writing, anything recorded, sound, video, books, compilations.
Okay, I'm writing that all down. Okay, thanks again.
If there aren't any other questions, we're going to wrap it up this evening. I thank you for coming and listening to these wonderful, successful entrepreneurs. And on November 18th, I just want you to mark your calendar. We will be having an MWBE panel discussion as well. If you need the registration for that, please contact me here at the office. Again, if there are no other questions, I thank you for coming. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice
Thank you so
meeting you
much.
all.
Nice
Thank you,
meeting you
Kenya.
all.
You're welcome.
Katrina, I'll get your number. I already have Verlene's number.
Yes,
I'll get your numbers. We keep in touch.
thank you, Katrina.
Yes, thank you. Thank you all so
Good night,
much.
all.